Now, joining us for a reaction to the drama in the halls of Congress is Washington insider and former counsel to Senator Rand Paul, Brian Darling. Brian, always great to see you. You know what's interesting here? I thought she made a very compelling case when she came out today and spoke on her behalf. She said, I looked at things. I didn't trust the news. I didn't trust the government. And I learned things. And she regretted some of that and then made her statement on her own behalf. And yet it looks like it's still going to be party vote.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And we've seen cancel culture coming to the House of Representatives because this is something that the Congresswoman did before she was elected. She said all these controversial things before she was elected. And where does Congress get the right to second guess the people in her district that voted for her? Where do Democrats get the right to have a veto power over what committees she's put on? It's truly outrageous. It sets a very dangerous precedent for the House. If Republicans take over, let's kick AOC off all her committees, too. I mean, we can see how this can start down a slippery slope where members of Congress will be kicked off committees for stuff they did when they were teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, this is unprecedented for someone to be removed from their committee assignments in this way, just a straight party line vote either side. Why is this allowed to happen? I mean, how is this happening?
Well, Congress does have a lot of rights, and in the Constitution, it allows Congress to make their own rules. So the majority can help to organize the committees and make rules to organize the committees. It's a little bit different in the Senate. You need more agreement to do an organizing resolution. But in the House, the majority rules. The majority can do pretty much whatever they want. And what Democrats are doing now is they're throwing out precedent and they're creating a new one, saying if we really don't like a member of Congress and what that member said before they were seated, we're not going to allow them to be on any committees. And I don't think Democrats are going to like this if Republicans take over in 2022, which they very well may, and start kicking Democrats off committee. We can see the slippery slope happening where things get out of control and the minority party has no rights.
Brian, let's take a look at some grades that you gave President Biden for his performance in office so far, the first couple of weeks here. Executive orders and actions, a D. Nominations, D+. I guess we had a D- before. Messaging on coronavirus, a C. Biden legislation, a D. Bipartisan, D+. I got to tell you, Brian, if my kids brought these to me, we'd have to have a conversation. So, but where do you start? I think what needs to be done?
These are very bad grades. I think that President Biden really needs to work a lot harder on his presidency to do a better job. I think the highlight is the one good thing that he can take home and show his parents is that in the messaging of the coronavirus, he is focusing on that as an important issue, which is good. I mean, the fact that he says that he's going to make sure that everybody gets their vaccines by the end of the summer if they want them, that's a message the American people want to hear. The big problem is he probably can't pull it off. And some of the other problems is this administration is looking a lot like a third term of President Obama. And you're seeing a lot of retreads from the Obama administration, Tony Blinken, Janet Yellen, who's Secretary of Treasury, who was the head of the Fed under President Obama. A lot of people were recognizing, and they weren't all that great back then, and they're not going to be all that great now. So there's a lot of room for improvement. I think that the American people are hoping that the president does a pretty good job and turns things around, but doesn't look very good right now.
Yeah. What about the number one thing that he said he was going to accomplish on Inauguration Day when he said unity and he was going to unify this country? Anything here that shows that he is accomplishing or even working towards that task?
Well, I worked in the Senate. I worked for the Senate Judiciary Committee years ago. And I'll tell you, Joe Biden's a good guy, somebody who does believe in bipartisanship. But part of what a president's supposed to do is lead, and he's not leading right now. We're seeing partisanship. We're seeing it in the House where they're trying to kick a member off all of her committees. We're seeing it in the Senate where there's been talk about expelling members. We're seeing the former president of the United States being impeached in an unconstitutional manner. So we're not seeing evidence of bipartisanship on the lower levels. And if Joe Biden is the head of the Democratic Party, maybe it's time for him to show some leadership and tell the members of his own party to back down a little bit and show that they can reach across the aisle, because right now the well is being poisoned. It's going to be very difficult for the parties to work together the way things are going right now.
Brian, when President Trump was president, there's no question who was in charge, who was making decisions. You had George W. Bush came in. A lot of people said he deferred a little too much to Rumsfeld and Cheney. That's kind of the backroom kind of talk I know that you're very familiar with. Who's doing the talking now? Who is leading the conversation for Joe Biden?
Well, that's the problem. I think when you look at Joe Biden, the way that he will govern is he's going to allow all of his cabinet officials to have virtually 100% control over their agencies. We're not going to see a lot of top-down leadership. We're going to see a lot of leadership coming from the bottom and bubbling up. And that is the problem. When you look at Tony Blinken, somebody who does not believe in an America First foreign policy or diplomacy policy, he's head of the State Department. And he did not do a great job when he was in the Obama administration. You just look all the way across this administration. I think there are a lot of concerns that he's not really in charge. Mm-hmm. He's putting other people in charge to make the big decisions, and that probably won't end very well.
All right, Brian Darling, as I said, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.